Since Trump first came into office, he has argued that foreign nations were ripping off Americans on trade matters. As we know, in 2018, Trump started a trade war against China, and that was widely characterized as a failure in the United States. Since then, the U.S. has tried their best to maintain a healthy friendship and relationship with the three top countries that are their trade partners: Mexico, China, and Canada. They are easily the three largest and most important partners of the U.S. Since 1992, these three countries alone account for half of all of the imports in the U.S. And now, Trump is looking to permanently increase the tax on trade for everyone. In November 2024, posting on Truth Social, Trump pledged to impose a 25% tariff on all products imported to the U.S. from Canada and Mexico, and that will remain in effect until the countries take steps to prevent illegal immigrants and drugs from entering the country. The media has saw this and just assumed that it was another one of Trump's most obnoxious statements, and it was taken very lightly. However, on February 1st, 2025, that post finally became a reality. The White House had officially announced that they were going to impose a 25% tariff tax to Canada and Mexico and a 10% tariff tax on China. And that announcement was scheduled to go into effect on February 4th indefinitely.
Mr. President, is there anything China, Canada, and Mexico can do tonight to forestall your implementation of tariffs tomorrow?
No, nothing. Not right now, no.
Not a negotiating tool?
No, it's not. No, it's a pure economic. We have big deficits with, as you know, with all three of them. And in one case, they're sending massive amounts of fentanyl, killing hundreds of thousands of people a year with the fentanyl. And in the other two cases, they're making it possible for this poison to get in, number one, and number two, we have big deficits, and it's something we're doing.
This announcement left the world in disbelief and honestly being terrified of the harm that it could bring to America. But it only gets worse. Only one day later, on February 2nd, 2025, Canada announced that they were going to impose a retaliatory 25% tariff on American goods that are currently in Canada. It was also suggested that Canada will target exports from specific Republican-led states, including Florida orange juice, Kentucky peanut butter, Tennessee whiskey, and many other goods that Canada offers to the U.S. But how did we get here? And the question that everyone wants to know is, how will this affect Americans? Let's start with why Trump wants to currently impose tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico. Trump originally blamed the three partners for not doing enough to stop the flow of fentanyl and other drugs inside of the U.S. He also had blamed Mexico and Canada for the overflow of immigrants crossing the U.S. borders. And over time, he continued to claim that the U.S. has not been treated fairly when it comes to trade in general. And now, it finally seems that Trump has reached his breaking point.
We may have short-term some little pain, and people understand that, but long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. We have deficits with almost every country, not every country, but almost.
Trump stated that this will increase the U.S. manufacturing. The tariffs will grow the U.S. economy. He argued that it will raise revenue and protect jobs. But Trump also said this: he isn't just using tariffs for economic reasons, but also to combat the scourge of fentanyl, a powerful drug that causes tens of thousands of overdoses in the U.S. each year. Trump's administration says that the chemicals used to make the drug come from China, and that the Mexican gangs are the ones supplying it illegally into the United States, and they also have fentanyl labs in Canada. Even though the Canadian Prime Minister recently said that less than 1% of fentanyl is coming into the US from Canada. At the same time, Trump is placing economic pressure on these trading partners. Like I said, he feels that these three countries have ripped off America. So it seemed that Trump could be doing this as a statement on the behalf of America. On February 2nd, Trump went onto social media and wrote that the US pays hundreds of billions of dollars to subsidize Canada. Why? There is no reason. We don't need anything that they have. Without this subsidy, Canada would cease to exist as being a valuable country. Harsh, but true. Therefore, Canada should become our cherished 51st state. Much lower taxes and far better military protection for the people of Canada. And no tariffs. So, we can see that Trump's plan to acquire Canada is still on the table. Even though he has threatened Canada with tariffs, he's still saying that they need to become the 51st cherished state. That makes you think, what if the tariff threat was a plan all along just so he can conquer Canada? Well, Canada did not waste any time responding in the tariff increase. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, announced just hours after Trump imposed a 25% tariff tax that Canada would be retaliating. And for Canada, they are imposing a 25% tariff tax on various U.S. goods, including lumber, plastic, vegetables, and mostly things that America needs.
In imposing 25% tariffs on Canadian exports to the United States and 10% on Canadian energy. A decision that, should they elect to proceed with, should take effect on Tuesday, February 4th. I want to speak directly to Americans, our closest friends and neighbors. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people.
Now, this is where a trade war can start, not only because of the back and forth between the US and Canada, but a 25% tariff on $600 billion in goods can definitely make a major impact on Americans. In an interview with CNN, Ontario Premier Doug Ford argued that the proposed tariffs against Canada were unjustified, unfair, and frankly illegal, and that it would hurt both Americans and Canadians.
He had two requests to tighten up the border, which I agree 100%, which we're doing, and 2% NATO commitment, which I agree with that as well. But Canada does $1.3 trillion of trade, two-way trade with the U.S. We're the largest trading partner. We ship down 4.3 million barrels of oil every single day. We send electricity down to the U.S., critical minerals. These are all areas in different sectors that Americans need. And why disrupt that?
The Canadian Prime Minister also wrote on social media, "Now is the time to choose products made right here in Canada. Check the labels, let's do our part. Wherever we can, choose Canada." So, Canada has already taken it this far, beginning to eliminate US products from their stores and retaliate in any way they can. Trudeau encouraged Canadians to buy Canadian products and to vacation at home instead of the US. He said, "We didn't ask for this, but we will not back down."
We didn't ask for this, but we will not back down in standing up both for Canadians and for the incredible, successful relationship and partnership between Canada and the United States.
So, that's how Canada responded. But how will Mexico and China respond to the tariff increase? Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has directed the Secretary of Economy to impose a plan including tariff and non-tariff measures in defense of Mexicans' interests. However, they haven't given an official response yet. China, on the other hand, has not imposed any new tariffs on U.S. goods. But its MFA, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said that the Belgian government will take necessary countermeasures to defend its legitimate rights and interests. The Ministry of Commerce said it will file a lawsuit with the World Trade Organization for the wrongful practices of the U.S., which would take the trade war a step further. So, all three of these countries have no plans on backing down considering Trump's announcement. Trump's plan to put his foot down on trading partners backfired, and it's left Americans helpless. Therefore, that leads us to the question, how will this affect Americans? It will be nothing but negative to the American economy. Goods from Mexico, such as fruits, vegetables, spirits, and beer, are expected to get more expensive because of the tariffs. Canadian goods, such as steel, lumber, grains, and potatoes, are likely to get pricier as well. It is even expected that car manufacturing businesses could be priced higher. Vehicle parts cross the US, Mexican, and Canadian borders multiple times before a vehicle is even completely assembled. The average US car price could increase by $3,000 because of this. The graph you see here shows a more detailed look at the products that can be affected. Cars, phones, all the way to electric batteries can be more expensive during a trade war of this caliber. The Budget Lab at Yale University estimates that Trump's tariffs will cost the average American household $1,000 to $1,200 in annual purchasing power. Truly life-changing numbers as an American. And honestly, the only thing you can do is sit back and hope for the best. Hopefully, after seeing the responses from these countries, Trump will think twice about his executive order to tax his best customers.